So yeah, so I'll also start the recording now, and put this on YouTube as well in a bit, just so you've got it to come back to. So yeah, so obviously this was a game where we were both kind of there together while it was going through. So we'll just go over kind of what happened and why and what we could have done a little bit different. So starting with this kind of situation now, if you're in this situation where your jungler starts top, what you can actually do is if they're gonna leash for their jungler, you can actually potentially make them lose um, a minion of XP early into the lane just by doing this. So what you actually want to do is if you do think they're leashing and you walk up to this point and you don't see them, what you could do is walk up when the wave comes, and you walk up to kind of here, and then or you can even do it like here. You let the wave kind of hit you and spread out fully, and then as soon as it does, this wave is still a straight line, so it comes here, and then all of their minions hit the front one, and it'll die before they actually get into the lane. And then what also happens there is the wave then slow pushes in because it's an even wave kind of at this point. So it's something you can do, or maybe practice sometime, but it can potentially, get you a little bit of an early lead, which means you get level 2 first, and more importantly, level 3 first, which on Zyra is a really, really big kind of milestone because then you have your full burst, and you're very, very strong. So yeah, so this was the Xerath Varus lane. I mean, this is kind of an annoying lane for you because usually what happens with Zyra is you'll be playing into, say, somebody that's a melee champion, like a tank or like a supportive Leona, something like that. Or you'll end up into an enchanter, which, they'll help by kind of like shields, heals, stuff like that. But you can kind of do more straight up damage to them because they usually have less HP. You've got things like Sona that have got like 500 HP, and like you catch them twice and they die with your ignite. So you end up in kind of lanes like that sometimes. But this one's kind of you're both just looking for sort of raw damage and to do as much damage to each other as you possibly can. So it's a little bit of a awkward laning phase, but yeah. So yeah, so one of the big things we can actually do here is instead of standing out in the open, because I don't think they'd warded these brushes, what you can do is look to sort of stand inside the brushes instead, because right here they can see where you are and they can see exactly what you're doing. Whereas if you're inside this brush or this brush and they have no vision, like they'll only see the E as it's here, which if they're here, like this Varus is, for example, it's very, very hard for him to dodge it because it's point blank. So as long as your cursor is on top of him, it will pretty much hit. So it's kind of a case of from back here, we're not really getting much pressure on him. And Caitlyn kind of wants us to walk up and get pressure. Otherwise, he's just kind of going to poke her out like crazy. And it's not really going to be a very good time in the lane. So we do want to make sure that we're trying to just kind of step up a little bit more to just kind of make their ADC choose what they want to do. So when you're playing support, it's about kind of putting your ADC in a favorable position whilst also making it very hard for the enemy's AD to function. So, for example, in this matchup, they're both really long range, so it's a case of whichever support can get more pressure is whichever ADC will end up with more farm, more kill opportunities, and then, better kind of back recall timings, stuff like that. So here, this was another one where we could have gotten this brush.
Just that with, I think it was at this moment, where actually both of the brushes were awarded. Because I think Caitlyn warded
so
one.
yeah, she warded here.
Then, yeah.
So yeah, Varus has warded this one.
Bush.
Yeah. But so this was fine. So here you kind of just want to be a little bit careful though, just because this wave is coming back into you due to the fact that this cannon has significantly more HP, which means in theory you don't want to throw too much out at this point because you kind of want to have this come back into you so that the enemy laners have to walk up out of kind of their safety zone in order to do anything into you. So here we just kind of want to be a bit careful about what we do. Now Caitlyn might just solo push it, like usually happens, but we just want to make sure that we at least know why we're not pushing, for example. And then yeah, so here, so this is kind of one of the moments as well. We know this wave's coming in. This wave is either going to build too big for us to actually fight here, or it's just going to come into us and we can claim it safely. So what we want to try and avoid doing is using kind of our seeds at this point, because we're about to hit level 3, and that means that if we manage to land our root on them, we're going to get 2 plants on them instead of just the 1. Which is then also going to reduce the cooldown of your comet, so that you've got that faster as well, since your plants actually reduce the cooldown of that rune. So yeah, so now we're 3. This is kind of the point where we now just get a lot of pressure, because our E can actually go through the minion wave, so we can catch quite easily. Obviously, Zerath was sat in there. We couldn't really do much about that. So yeah, so even like here, for example. So you see there, so one of the things that's kind of hard to do, and just in the game in general, is to just kind of predict where somebody's going to be going to, right? So if we look at kind of this frame, we'll go back a little bit. So if we look at, say, here, for example, one of the big things to actually take note of in the game is where the enemy's faces are. Now, what does the face tell you about the enemies, about the player actually playing the champion?
So Zerath is probably headed towards the bush, and then with
Okay.
Sparrows, he aiming towards Cape, but probably trying to get the last man.
Okay, so yeah, maybe. So what's an indicator of where they? So we can actually see it on us. See our face. What are we doing right now? We're just putting a click down here, right? So their face is basically will always be looking at where they've clicked. So for Varus right now, like obviously his face is down here. So it's like he's looking at these minions, like actually looking at these minions. So that is a sign that he's going to walk up and hit them, because that's where he's clicking. So what we want to do is, as soon as we see that, we want to make sure that he was actually running towards Caitlyn, but we want to make sure that we're walking up into him then. Because, see, he'd walked down here into a kind of position and started hitting us. So here we actually miss the E, because he doesn't really need to be in this area that we threw it. Because he's standing there now, but his safety is back here. So what we can actually do instead is throw the E, so it'll kind of go towards where he needs to run to. And then what he'll either do is walk back into it, or he'll walk forward slightly and Caitlyn will get more damage because he'll be further from Zerath. So it's kind of like when we are throwing our skill shots, we just want to make sure that we're kind of thinking of all scenarios where they might go to. Because, and then see, it kind of just misses and he does manage to get away. It takes a bit of poke, but yeah, this is kind of the weird thing to skill shots. Like sometimes a skill shot, if you throw it into a certain area or a certain way, will actually be not more valuable than it if it hits, but basically it'll serve the same purpose. So you'll still get the kill either way. So it's kind of like a thing of just balancing out what where they could go, where they want to go, based on where you throw them. Right, so then this lane was, we were just playing it safe. I think we did actually manage to get up to our boots amount, but and yeah, so here in these situations too, like for example, the Varus walking up, like when your E's up, you may as well just throw it out. So you've got it nearly up now, you got it up in a second, you may as well just throw it there, see? Because this is kind of another one of them situations where here it felt like you knew to throw it, but then you kind of hesitated.
Yeah.
That kind of hesitation made him, allowed him to, go unpunished. Because if we would have thrown E there, we would have been able to root him, and he just dies because we've got Ignite. And the Zerath was low anyway. Oh, this was where the Caitlyn just kind of left you out to dry.
Yeah.
I think, was it this one where we killed? No, we didn't actually kill him here, right? So yeah, don't worry too much about going up to help for a dragon, by the way. Like, it's more important for the jungler for you to have pressure in the lane than to go and help him on that dragon right there. And then, yeah, here what you can do is you don't really want to look to fight here because you've got enough gold for a recall. So you've actually got your boots in base already. So what you actually do want to look to do is Caitlyn will have a considerable amount of gold, more gold than you because obviously she's been farming. And so what you actually look to do here is just walk up and use everything on the wave. So just use your E, W, Q, everything on the wave, just so this one crashes in and you can recall. Because then what happens is they end up having to stay at this tower now to farm this wave. And then what will also happen in lower elos as well, especially kind of like these silver regions, the enemy ADC will then go, oh, well, I have to crash the next wave. Otherwise, there's nothing I can do. When in theory, they should just clear this wave and then recall as well. So what will then happen is they'll stay in lane to try and push out. The Xerath's got barely any mana. The Varus, his wave clear's okay, but it's not going to get it in too quick. So then what happens is, say, you and Caitlyn can get back, and they might not have even fully pushed it in yet, depending on when they start to push. So then you can either keep them in the lane, or as soon as they leave so that they can recall and spend their gold, you just get 2 or even 3 plates on the tower. So it's kind of like, here, it's very tempted to go for these kills, but you can actually deny more from them in the long term than just kind of killing them here, you know? And then, yeah, unfortunately, he did get you, and we didn't manage to kill him. But then, kind of, that ends up in a situation where Caitlyn doesn't really have a time to back there, you see? So now she's staying. Now, one of the things here that we also want to do is this Caitlyn is literally just going to crash this wave in and reset. And that's all she's going to do. So there's no real point in us running into bot lane, because by the time we get to bot lane, she's recalling. So what we want to do is in these kind of windows where maybe we've died, or maybe we've managed to reset earlier, or ADC has died maybe, we want to look and think, okay, well, what can we do elsewhere on the map? Now, in mid lane, this was actually gankable. So this is in a position where you can come and help this lane. So what you do here instead is you just run through, start sweeping here. So use your sweeper, clear out any vision that's in this area. And if there isn't any vision in that area, you can just sit in this brush for a little bit, wait for the brand to walk up, and then you just gank him. And then you also know that there's no vision up there. You can put your control ward in this brush here. I mean, you can even maybe put a ward here. So yeah, you just get really nice vision for your team, because the Caitlyn's not really doing anything. And I think we did nearly get... oh no. So I think it was warded, but we could have still kept going, to be fair. Just because Lee Sin was coming round as well, so maybe we could have chased him a little bit more. Just because if we chase him there and Lee Sin comes, that's already a 2v2. And then if our mid comes as well, then... well, if their jungler's there, sorry. And then if our mid comes as well, then we still have a numbers advantage because their support is probably in bot lane right now. Just because like people don't usually roam in these elos. And that also means that the laners don't expect a support to roam as much. Especially when you're playing things like Zyra. They'll just think, oh, they're just going to stay in lane. And then all of a sudden you gank them and they just die from it. Especially considering on Zyra, your first real item that you want is your tier 2 boots anyway. So it means that you can get back into bot lane fairly quickly because of that anyway. So yeah, so now this wave's coming into us. So this way we want to be a little bit careful because, again, see, we're kind of damaging this wave coming in. So it's actually hard for Caitlyn to control it as much. But, I mean, she just clears it out anyway. But the main concern there is just that they don't jump on you. Because, say, for example, they just jump on you in that situation. They manage to get... I'm not sure if Varus has used his ult. Or even the Xerath E. If they get you in that situation, then all of these minions will just jump on top of you as well. So it means that, you'll probably lose there. So if the wave's too big, just kind of step back out of it. And yeah, just be a little bit more careful until it's actually evened out. And then you basically win the trades again because you're sitting on such a huge spike. Now, another thing to do as well is also check when the laners get back into lane. Press tab and have a look what they've actually bought. Because right now we don't know what the Xerath has. And I don't think he will go the same build as you, but... we weren't 100% sure, just because we didn't really have a look, I don't know what this was. Like, this was just interesting. But, yeah, so Varus did have ult, actually. Okay, so So now, so what should your first reaction have been, or what do you? So one of the things that we want to do is we want to build as many kind of good habits as possible, because then you'll start doing them without even realizing you're doing them. So in this kind of moment right here, what do you think would be kind of a good thing for us to quickly do, which could change a lot, like just a basic thing?
After the sun, maybe like try to get auto attacks in.
Okay, so if say you were driving a car, what would you kind of do quite frequently? I don't know if you drive, sorry, but like,
I don't.
okay, so quite frequently what you'll do is you'll, check your rearview mirror just to kind of gain information about what's going on, right? So
Okay.
how could we kind of, where do you think the analogy was going there? Like what could we have done in this moment for equal information?
Uh, I'm not sure.
Okay. So what we could have done is just quickly look at our map.
Mm-hmm.
Just quick, because in these situations where we've just got a kill, we have to decide, can we keep chasing them or do we need to back out? Now, obviously the mid laner is missing,
Mm-hmm.
and the jungler is actually showing on the map right now. So
Mm-hmm.
what does that mean could potentially happen here? If the mid lane is missing, but there's a fight going on in the jungle,
That
then
maybe Brand would be going towards
yeah,
Lee.
yeah, maybe. We haven't seen him in a little bit of time, so maybe he's just going to come directly out of base and come and try and help this fight. Now, we've already killed the ADC here. So this Xerath
Yeah.
isn't really going to provide a massive threat for a Caitlyn in a 1v1 situation, not considering he doesn't really have any kills or anything, and, we're somewhat strong in this lane. So what we can actually do is we can move up into this jungle fight and either help kill the Eve or protect the Lee Sin. Because then if the mid comes, it's just going to be Brand versus Zyra, right? So we're going to end up in a 2v2. And because we do actually have a Lee Sin, we will win that 2v2 even as a support. So it's kind of like, here we just want to check and go, okay, well, can we keep chasing? Oh, wait, there's a Lee Sin. And then we can kind of just walk straight up and potentially change what's going on. Because we don't actually see what actually happens there. And there was actually a ping that, which was from the Yasuo, that his laner might be there.
Mm-hmm.
So we do actually get here and we do a lot. So see, we actually managed to catch the Eve. And we could have actually come a little bit earlier and done that as well. But, this still worked as it should. But, this was more so we kind of got lucky, the fact that they sort of overstayed. And then we finally made that play.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, knowing when to do these things, obviously does kind of come with time, but it's kind of a thing. If you just kind of get into good habits, you'll go, okay, look at the map, oh, there's a fight, and go help, like stuff like that, especially if you're not going to lose anything out of your lane. Yeah, now this Eve was a bit annoying, but yeah, so here use your E as well and just kind of clear everything out. So what you also want to do is you always want to try and focus these backlines as well when you're pushing a wave in. So always try and focus the minions at the back, because not only are the ones in front tankier, they basically just hold the wave for these to do damage at the back. Same with you. So if you clear these out, then their wave actually does no damage, which means then, this will clear off these, and then as soon as these are cleared, it'll just go straight in, or this will be a really big healthy wave, and then the next wave will be healthy, and then it'll crash. So if we don't really have enough time to just fully clear, at least then we end up in a position where we've at least put the wave in a position where it will crash, or it'll be paper thin and it'll just crash almost instantly.
Mm-hmm.
Because it takes us ages to kill those off, and then by the time we've done that, the Eve is kind of in a position where she can come and gank us. So yeah, here, we just E and then just flash. We just get out of there. And then, yeah. So we used our flash a little bit late, and then we ended up Zonia's. But, yeah, if we just instantly flash, we can run to the tower. And then she'll still use her ult, but then we can maybe time our Zonia's to her ultimate. Otherwise, we just end up kind of like a bit of a sitting duck, So here, we still got a lot of pressure just because, you know, this duo is very, very oppressive. So this was, again, another pick. So, yeah, we just basically 1v1'd on Eve. Gotta love Zyra. Like, AP enemy jungler versus AP support with no gold. Okay, so yeah, we got this. So we'll kind of go through this bit a little bit faster so we can go into another game, just because the laning phase is where kind of most of the things you want to focus on are. But there were kind of a few bits, like for example here, like because you're also an AP mage and you have a lot of CC or kind of ways to control an area, especially with plants, one of the things that you want to look to do as much as possible is kind of be a buffer between the objective that you want to get and where the current enemy team are, because you can potentially buy time for them, especially with your ultimate, so that the objective is almost guaranteed. Because one of the things that changed quite recently actually is jungle smite now no longer scales based on level. So previously it used to be a case of, okay, my jungler's 2 or 3 levels up, they'll be able to smite for more damage, so, you know, we can maybe flip this. Whereas now, both of them will do the same amount of damage with their smite, which is a substantial amount. So because they both get 900 true damage, it means that it's now a much bigger priority for mages and kind of control mages and everybody else, say if somebody gets fed, even something like a Garen, if it gets fed, like to just disrupt them as much as possible and just stop the enemy jungler from actually getting in. So this is the things that you can do. One of the things that you can do really, really well on Zyra, because you've got your plants, you've got your E, you've got your Liandries now as well. So your plants are actually doing a substantial amount of damage since they're proccing your Liandries. And then you've got your ultimate if they get too close anyway, and you can just run. So it's actually a good opportunity sometimes for you to get a few sneaky kills, really. And I think these sneaky kills are something we do want to try and abuse a little bit more, because we're pretty strong. I mean, our laning phase was okay. Like, there was definitely mistakes, but, I mean, it went pretty well for us. So now it's just a case of being a little bit more sneaky with some of the things we do. Like, even, for example, here, see? So we know this Lee Sin's gone on there. We just sweep this vision. And, you know, so what we actually want to look to do here is, instead of kind of standing here where we've got E and ult available, what we want to do is kind of walk up into this brush maybe. Get, say, a ward here, and then what would actually happen is the Xerath kind of comes to face check it. So in that situation, we could just blow him up and run. And then all of a sudden, we've just managed to get 1 kill, and, you know, we've got numbers advantage now. We can do whatever we want. And that's going to really tilt them as well. So one of the biggest things with Zyra is the fact that she tilts people so hard due to the fact that she's a support that could just 100 to 0 you, especially at these 2 items. So it's kind of like she's very, very obnoxious then to play into. Like, we see that he's right here. And, you know, he was directly on top of us. So this kind of comes down a little bit more to kind of looking at the map and just kind of preparing for these sort of situations, because it's very common that people will always just run this way, since this is one of the fastest ways to path into this area from the base. So auto-pathing puts them this way sometimes too. And yeah, so here we could have just blown that Xerath up, but so now we're kind of in a position where we do get Eve and we do knock him up, but we do end up dying, unfortunately. So yeah, so one thing is just be careful about kind of throwing your E over the wall, because it makes it really difficult on yourself to actually land it. So right here, the range of it isn't actually that big anyway. You can see that it skips out around here. But the problem is with throwing that there is that doesn't really provide as much kind of peel as you think, because what you actually want to do is throw it in the area that your ally wants to actually run through. So if you're coming down right here and then you just throw it like this, what they could do then is just run over this section completely safe, because if the enemies try and follow them directly, they'll get rooted. So they'll have to walk around like this, and that, you know, can allow your teammate to just get out quite easily. Yeah, but we do manage to just blow him up instantly. Unfortunately, we do die, but... And again, this was pretty good. I mean, Vlad was pretty strong at this point, to be honest. So that's the ult we won't speak about. You said that was an accident, right? So, okay. So yeah, this was fine. We do actually manage... Oh no, we die to the brand, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, here, just throw the E out. Just because in this kind of situation, it's a case of if you throw the E out and you miss, you die. But if you don't throw the E out at all, you also die. So it's kind of a case of you may as well just throw it, and if you land it, then you'll actually survive.
Right.
Even though I think Brand tried to predict it and jump over it, I don't know. Okay, so we did actually have an opportunity to do Baron there, but they didn't want to. But, so see, kind of similar situation here, where we're sort of just on the back, like, aggressing it, which is okay, because we're a bit lower. But, you know, we could have kind of walked a little bit up and just kind of use our body to be a bit of a ward, just to see if they'd come. And see if the blue is there, because, I mean, somebody should have been on that blue buff there, and then could have contested drag, but for some reason they didn't. But if they were, then it could have been a bit risky. But yeah, so now our goal is to just get to Zonya. So this was this kind of this was a little weird fight that happened. So yeah, so we kind of just got caught there. But yeah, I mean, this was just messy. We just kind of messed up our E a little bit, but I mean, it didn't really change the game too much. This was... Okay, this was where we got Baron, I think. This was good that you just burn everything on the Garen, though, just because, you know, you just want to stop him and allow the Caitlyn to just jump on him when the rest of them aren't actually here anyway. And unfortunately, we didn't kill him, but... So we got the Eve. So here, because we got Eve, we just want to get out. So right here, like, we want to just make sure that we do whatever we can just to save Kate. We didn't, like, necessarily need to ult. Even an E would have been fine. But, you know, we got his flash. And, you know, we got the Caitlyn out as well. So it really wasn't that bad. So this was a little bit unfortunate. So yeah, there we just kind of leave the Kate to die. Like, if she got caught like that, I mean, Brand's damage is huge. So if it spreads on you, it's really, really strong.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe we shouldn't have just gone for that, but I mean, it weren't too bad. But here, so...
I think it's mostly laning as well.
Yeah.
And positioning in that sense.
Yeah. So yeah, so now this is fine. We get this Baron, we can then get our Wardstone, which again is super strong. Like, even the bonus AP that you got out of that was more gold than what you put into the item. Like, so as soon as you got these two mage items, like, you can just get it every single time. And it'll pay for itself, it'll keep wards for you, and then you'll have obviously your boots, and you can then just try and snowball. This is kind of like your last point to snowball and try and get like as many stacks as possible, because then you'll end up getting a Medjay's a bit later. So then this was fine, we get this. So here we don't have to be as scared, just because, you know, we've got our ult, we've got our E, we've got so much AP, it's unreal. And we have Elder too. So we can just go for kills. And then, yeah, so then we kill Garen as well, and then we end. So, yeah, so that's it for that one. So we will go into another game. I'll stop the recording now and upload it later.